Welcome to the Time to Fly podcast. It's time to give your business wings and take flight to achieve more impact, influence, and income with unique perspectives, tools, and tips from successful entrepreneurs and business professionals to help your business fly. Here to educate, encourage, and entertain you with their own unique perspectives and experience, plus sharing anecdotes of growing up as cowgirls. Here's your host, Jill Fleming.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Time to Fly, Give Your Business Wings. I'm your host, Jill Fleming, and today we're going to talk about change. Wow, change, how it sneaks up on us. I often coach my clients through changes that they're experiencing in their lives, whether they're transitioning from one career to another or they're up-leveling their business, but they're going through change. I was thinking about today as I myself am going through a change. I found out a few days ago that the place that I've been living for the past 5 years, that I need to move out by May 1st. And I'm appreciative for the extended notice to have plenty of time to look and to find a new place to live. But even with all the tools I use around change, all of the feelings and emotions and the things that I know that my clients are dealing with are popping up with me. I just wanted to share with you some of the things that are popping up, the what ifs and what am I going to do and what's this going to look like, all of the uncomfortableness of dealing with change, and some tools to use as I'm using my own tools right now. So the place that I've been living is a beautiful spot that I've been the last 5 years. I feel very blessed to have lived there. I live 5 minutes from the beach in Southern California. Since I got this notice, it's interesting how I've gone into the wrongness of me. Have I been utilizing this place I've gotten to live for the last 5 years to its full potential? Have I taken advantage of all the opportunities? How our brains often go to lack as opposed to appreciation. And as I've been processing through this for the last couple of days and thinking through what's next, and do I even want to stay in Southern California? Do I want to move somewhere else? It's interesting how our brains start to come from a place of fear. And I talk to my clients about this a lot, is that our inner wisdom, our inner guidance comes from our heart, and our brain is a place of logic, and it only processes information that we've gotten from our past. And so when we're looking to what's next, what's our future, it's our heart that's the one that's speaking to us and making a point to be quiet, to listen to my heart, try to turn off my brain, because my brain is freaking out. It's like, oh my gosh, where are we going to live? What are we going to do? I don't know what this looks like. And I have to calm myself to allow myself to tune into my heart and be okay. Is my season here in Southern California, is it complete? Do I want to look for a place here, or do I want to look for a place somewhere else? Is there someplace else that's calling to me? I think back to when I moved from Iowa out to Southern California. Originally, I was just moving out here to boycott winter. I was going to come out and be out here from January to March, and then I was going to go back to Iowa. And that was the trick I used to get me to get out of my comfort zone. When I looked at it as only being temporary, it was much easier to make that choice as opposed to being a permanent choice. And I've learned that about myself, that it's okay to go try something out, and that it doesn't have to be permanent. It's not forever. And when I originally came out here to California, I was just coming out for 3 months, and then I was going to go back in April. And I remember coming out here, and the first few weeks were really uncomfortable. I pass that on to my clients because anytime there's change, anytime you're stepping into something new, it is really uncomfortable because our brains like to be comfortable. Our brain's main job is to keep us safe. And if it can get into a routine, it is super happy. It knows where everything is at. It expects different things throughout the day, and it gets very much stuck in that rut. But our brain likes that because then there's no surprises that it has to keep us safe from. And I remember when I first came out here to California those first few weeks were so uncomfortable. I didn't know where the grocery store was. I didn't know where the gas station was. I was just very uncomfortable. But I knew what to expect, and I kind of leaned into that uncomfortableness and knew that when you lean in, when you choose change and you do something different, it allows you to grow and expand. And it was about 30 to 45 days is what I tell my clients before it started getting uncomfortable. Before it started getting more comfortable, I knew where the grocery store was. I knew where the gas station was. I had gone to some networking groups and I had met a few people. I was starting to get a new routine.
With that, I'm going to take a quick break for our sponsor.
This episode is sponsored by the book Freedom to Fly, the Visionary Leader's Guide to Unlocking Your Unique Freedom Code to confidently create more impact, influence, and income. Get your copy of this best-selling book on Amazon.com.
Welcome back.
As the weeks progressed, I started to enjoy Southern California more and more. And as the end of March rolled around, I thought to myself that there were bigger opportunities here for me in California, and I decided to stay. And so I flew back to Iowa, I tied up my loose ends there, and then ended up coming back and being in California the first part of May. Well, that was when I moved into the current place that I'm in, and I've been there for 5 years. And I realize, looking at this, it's been such an amazing growth process of me being here in California. The people I've gotten to meet, the trainings I've gotten to experience, the just overall growth process I've gone through over the past 5 years. And this place that I'm living has kind of been my nest, my safe place. And one of the things I tell people often is that you can choose change or change will choose you. And I'm experiencing that right now. I had an awareness last fall to start to look for a new place. And as I was kind of in that process, unfortunately, I had a close family member pass away, and my life kind of got thrown out of whack, and I was in grief and just dealing with so much. And so the thought of having to move and to change locations, I just didn't have the bandwidth for it. And I was grateful to be in a place that felt safe, that felt comfortable, to be able to process my own grief and just kind of go inward for a little while. But now fast forward a few months later, guess what? Change chose me. So I was feeling that nudge to leave the nest, to go somewhere else, and I didn't listen to it, or I didn't choose it. And so now I'm getting kicked out of the nest. So I'm being encouraged to move forward and to choose the next thing. And when my roommate told me that she needed me to move out, it felt super light. That, oh my gosh, I have new opportunities. There's new doors opening. And I was excited when I was told that. And that was my heart speaking. But then my brain has kicked in, and it is going through all of these different scenarios of like, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? How is this going to look? And coming from a place of scarcity and from fear. But I know that everything's going to work out okay. It always does. And oftentimes when we get into unfamiliar, we allow this fear to take over and to cause panic and to cause anxiety, as opposed to really getting quiet and really listening to that inner knowing and listening to those nudges, listening to that awareness of what to choose next. And I've had a few awarenesses that have popped up that I won't share with you yet. I will probably share with you after the fact. We'll see what comes of them. But I've had a few awarenesses this week to reach out to certain people, to ask some different questions, to see what is possible for my next place to live. Over the past few weeks, I have been doing some work for a client that I kind of do one-off work for. And their industry is around schools. And so I've been at these conferences where there's been a bunch of faculty and staff that have been there and some amazing speakers. This reminds me of a speaker that I heard a couple of weeks ago that talked about our school systems and how there has not been change. He showed a video around how in the 1900s, what vehicles were like, what telephones were like, and what schoolrooms were like. And then you fast forward into the 1950s and it shows you what telephones were like, what vehicles were like, and then what the classroom was like. And the classroom hadn't changed. And it fast forwards to the 1980s and it shows you what vehicles are like, what phones are like, and then what the classroom is like. And then it fast forwards yet again to our current time and it shows you what our telephones are like, what our vehicles are like, and what our classrooms are like. And our classrooms have not changed. And the gentleman that was speaking was talking around how are we empowering our youth to be prepared for the future. And the gentleman spoke about how with all of this data that we have access to through our mobile phones and through the internet, that the jobs of the future are going to be how to curate that data and how to take that data and apply it to certain situations. And he said that in our current classrooms, if people are using their cell phones to find the answer, it's called cheating. But in our current jobs, we have to know how to use these data sources to get the answer. And he brought up that in our current school systems, that we're training our children for the past instead of for the future. But it all comes back to change. How do you bring about change? How do you bring about innovation? And I think we're seeing right now, just from having exposure to all of these different speakers and all of these different workshops that I've been to over the past few weeks around our school system, are we going to choose change in our society of how we're educating, or is change going to choose us? It's just really something to think about, especially if you are change challenged. If change absolutely frightens you, terrifies you, then I would encourage you to reach out to find someone to help you make some changes in your life. Because I guarantee you, if you don't choose the change is going to choose you. And it gets really uncomfortable when change chooses you. Thankfully for me, I have 60 days to figure out what I want to do and where I want to go and what I want this to look like. But that's not often the case. Sometimes when we have change come along, it chooses us very quickly and we have to make a decision on the spot. And if we're not sure where we want to be going and what we want it to look like, that can be really difficult. And it's been a great reminder to me as I go through this change to really look at the process. And as I step myself through it, getting clarity around that and what that looks like. And I'm so grateful that I have my own tools that I can apply to my own life. And how can I make this process easier for the people that I work with? And I want you to remember that we get our discernment, our guidance from our heart, not through our heads. If we are not listening to our heart, we're not getting those guiding nudges, as I call them, on directions that we can go. If you're in judgment of yourself, it makes it really difficult to be able to move forward. And so we need to really believe in ourselves, because our perception of ourselves is more powerful than reality. And believing in ourselves and believing that change is going to turn out for the best. Instead of thinking of change from a place of fear, thinking of change from a place of what else is possible here. We don't know, and the unknowingness is uncomfortable, but really trusting and believing that what's next can be and will be greater than what we believe is possible. And believing in ourselves and believing that great things are coming helps to create that possibility versus being in fear and being in lack. So if you're in the process of going through a change, know that you're not alone. And know that there are tools out there to help make change easier. And one of those tools, too, is just to listen to your heart. Know that you've got this, and that believing in yourself and listening for those nudges, those awarenesses that say, hey, call so-and-so. Yes, logic is there to help you figure it out, but really listen to your heart on where it's guiding you, where it's leading you, and then you implement the brain to help create that reality. So if you are going through a change and you would like some guidance from someone who has been there, done that, I would love to have a chat with you. I take a limited number of free one-on-one consultations each month, and I have 3 available. So if you would like one of those 3, please go to www.schedulejill.com and sign up for your time. And I would love to visit with you around what change you're going through and if I can be a contribution to you in helping make that process easier. Remember, either you choose change or change will choose you. Until next time, it's time to fly. Give your business wings.
A big thank you to this episode's sponsor, Freedom to Fly, the visionary leader's guide to unlocking your unique freedom code to confidently create more impact, influence, and income. Get your copy of this best-selling book on Amazon.com.
Join our flock. Stay informed of all things Time to Fly by subscribing to our newsletter at timetoflypodcast.com. And be sure to tune in to our next show.